Apple's annual September iPhone event has just been announced. The event, titled Awe Dropping, is going to be held on September 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and honestly, I'm excited. I'm going to say it. I think there's been an interesting rumor cycle this year around, and with the state that Apple is in at the moment, I think people are a little bit wary about a lot of the rumors that we've heard, and there is some controversy. The new design for the iPhone 17 Pro in particular has drawn some scrutiny, with people criticizing the move away from titanium towards aluminum, with people criticizing the new camera bar and that new glass cutout lower down on the phone. It's a design that, well, I need to see the actual phone to be sure whether I'm going to like it or dislike it, but I'm certainly intrigued, and I haven't been for the past couple of years. But whether you're a fan of the new iPhone 17 Pro's alleged design, let me know in the comments down below if you are. You can't deny that this year there's certainly a lot more meat on the bone to discuss. We have quite a number of rumors. We also have an entirely new iPhone category in the iPhone 17 Air. So this year is going to be interesting, if nothing else. And as usual, when the event invites dropped at exactly 9 a.m. on the West Coast, everybody started speculating as to what they could mean. And it seems like the consensus is as follows. We've got that orange hue in the Apple logo as a nod to the new Pro color that's rumored to be some sort of a burnt orange. We have a light blue signifying the iPhone Air. And of course, the event title being Awe Dropping is a play on jaw dropping. Now, I wouldn't read too much into the tea leaves of event invites, but they do generally spell out the direction that the event is going. Last year, for example, the tagline was "It's glow time," and we had the Apple Intelligence colors indicating correctly that the main focus of at least Apple's advertising campaign was on Apple Intelligence. And I'm very thankful that this year that is seemingly not the case, because I think, frankly, Apple Intelligence was a massive mistake. In fact, they're currently being sued for that because they've made a lot of promises that they haven't been able to deliver. But this year there have been a lot more hardware and design rumors, and I'm all here for it, because the new design for the iPhone 17 Pro is certainly a departure from what we've been on for the past 5 years, pretty much. I would argue since the iPhone 12, we've really been iterating on the same design, and this is finally something a little bit different. I'm curious to know though, are you guys a fan of this rumored new design? I think this is pretty much guaranteed to be very, very close to the final look. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how the final shades of color look on this frame, but the big news for this year is moving to aluminum away from titanium. And I think that's a really weird move, because just 2 years ago, the entire tagline for the iPhone 15 was titanium, and it only lasted 2 cycles before going away. Now, I think the reason that they're moving to this aluminum design is because the camera bump is now going to be a part of the side frame. It's not going to be separate in glass. So that is a pretty big design shift and would have been very difficult and expensive to do in titanium. But I do think it's interesting to completely shift away from that material right after introducing it. But in fact, just in the last 2 or 3 days, we've had a couple tidbits that have come out. For example, there are new colors expected for this year's iPhones, and Mark Gurman has all but confirmed that they're going to be a light blue color for the iPhone 17 Air and a shade of orange on the 17 Pro. Now, previously that has been described as having a copper finish. Dummy models have also come out that have supposedly featured all of the different shades that Apple is going to offer this year. But especially with this orange one, a lot of people have been very skeptical. They're like, okay, wait, so is it like copper? Is it bronze? Is it like a sunset color? Like, what are we expecting here? And honestly, this is one of those cases where I don't know. I think the color will probably look good. I've been wanting something like this since the rose gold iPhones, where I was like, hey, there's kind of like a little bit of a coppery thing if they went just a little darker, a little more bronzy. So I personally think that that is probably the color that I'm going to go for, unless it's absolutely heinous, which is possible. But the other tidbit that came out just yesterday was further clarification on a rumor that had previously been a little bit more dubious, and that is reverse wireless charging. This one has been a little bit back and forth over the past couple of months, but leaker Fixed Focus Digital said that the iPhone 17 Pro has been tested with reverse charging capability. And look, I just know that this is one of those things that if it does get implemented, it's going to get memed on by the Android guys who've had this feature for a long time. I get it. Look, I'm not even going to argue with that. But I do have to say, for a feature like this, I would hope that the battery life of the phone itself is pretty robust, because I know maybe not on the Pro Max, but on the regular Pros, I don't think I would be ready to spare battery to other people. But speaking of battery, that has been another topic of much contention, because the iPhone 17 Air, coming in at just over 5mm, is expected to have one of the thinnest batteries ever fitted to a smartphone. We've been hearing a couple of rumors throughout the year about, it's actually going to be this new battery technology and it'll have great battery life, and then we seemingly have settled on, well, it's probably going to be a little bit underwhelming. But for the iPhone 17 Pro, at least, we have heard that the new 17 Pro Max has a capacity of about 5,000 milliamp hours and could offer around 35 hours of battery life. But it's not just capacity that's supposedly going to be changing this year, and other internal design changes for better heat dissipation, and there's also apparently a vapor chamber cooling system that's in discussion, which again is also going to draw people on the Android side going, oh my gosh, we've had those since 2013. Yes, I know, you're so cool. You're so much better than we are. I will say anecdotally, it seems like most of the rumors this year have been for the Pros and for the Air. I don't really know that the iPhone 17 regular is going to be that big of an improvement. But then again, the iPhone 16, I think, was a pretty solid phone. It didn't really excite a lot of people, but it was a fairly noticeable design change from the 15, and it added quite a bit more features than, frankly, I thought they were going to. So it makes sense that this year the regular 17 sort of takes a back seat. If this becomes a regular pattern for Apple, then it almost kind of is like going back to like an S and a non-S year in a weird way, where some years the regular models get a good update, other years the expensive models get a good update. But if there's one thing that is going to come to all 4 iPhone models this year, it's camera improvements, and that's something that I'm always super excited for, and honestly, one of the few remaining areas where we don't get a ton of super duper detailed leaks about it. One of the big ones that we've heard this year is a 24 megapixel front-facing camera. This will mark a massive improvement in that selfie camera, which honestly I think is really overdue, because people use that more than ever. Sure, maybe 10 years ago it was a selfie cam or a FaceTime cam, but nowadays people will literally make their entire livings with that front-facing camera on social media apps. But what we haven't heard in the rumors that I personally suspect is that that front-facing camera will have ultra-wide capabilities. And I think that would make a massive, massive difference, because pretty much every iPhone since the 11, with the exception of the SEs, of course, have had the ultra-wide camera. I personally use the ultra-wide camera all the time, and in fact, a lot of people take 0.5 selfies where they actually turn their phone around to take a picture of themselves. And to me, that just screams like an opportunity for Apple to add their own ultra-wide sensor on the side of the phone that has a screen on it, so that you can see what you're doing. Another rumor that I'm super excited for the iPhone 17 Pro is a 48 megapixel telephoto camera. So with this update, we're now going to be going to all 48 megapixel sensors, the ultra wide, the main, and the telephoto. And I think that is going to finally start to make the iPhone's camera system feel a little bit more smooth and cohesive. Since Apple added the 5x telephoto to the 15 Pro Max and then both 16 Pro models, I've really enjoyed using it. Not least because I'm now shooting footage with my iPhone a lot more than I used to in the past. I'm starting a new car channel called The Middle Lane, and a lot of our footage is shot on iPhone. And so having that flexibility with those different focal lengths really does help. Now, unfortunately, that does mean that I probably will not be able to daily drive the iPhone 17 Air. And that's kind of a bummer, because I'm excited for that phone. I think it's a super interesting device that is, let's say, an unnecessary risk that Apple hasn't taken in quite a while. I think a lot of iPhones have felt very safe, but this is a radically thin device that could end up sacrificing significantly on its features to get that design. We've heard rumors that it's not going to feature stereo speakers. only having an earpiece and not having one on the bottom of the device. It's also almost certainly only going to have a single camera, that 48 megapixel main sensor like you'd find on an iPhone 16e. And I hope that they do it well. I hope that people buy it, and I hope that it rewards them for trying something different. Because in the past, to be honest, they've tried something different, not really put their heart into it, and then given up. I'm talking the iPhone mini. RIP to a real one. But more than anything, I think this event is Apple's big test. The last few years of iPhone updates have been pretty underwhelming. I think if you look back at the 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, man, they all really tend to blend together. And that's not to say that there haven't been boring iPhones in the past. The iPhone 7 comes to mind. The iPhone XS and XR certainly were a little bit boring, a little bit controversial, but the difference was back then, a boring iPhone year was usually sandwiched between very exciting things. The iPhone 7, for example, came out just 1 year before the iPhone X, which I don't think anyone is going to argue was a boring phone. Similarly, the iPhone XS was followed by the 11 Pro, which was very well received, and then the iPhone 12, which was a pretty major redesign. But since then, we've felt not only have there been back-to-back uninspired years of iPhone, but that there wasn't a ton to look forward to. This year seems a little bit different because, well, there's maybe not a radical redesign, there is at least something to sink our teeth into, hopefully well executed. But then there's also a little bit of that question mark on the horizon for next year, because it seems like Apple might actually be doing this foldable iPhone thing. It's been rumored for a couple of years and it's always seemed kind of distant, but rumors are now circling around 2026 as an actual release date. So while that phone might not be for everybody, it is at least something that we can get excited to hear more about over the next year. So let's find out in just 2 weeks. Is Apple getting back on track? Are they putting some juice in the tank and really giving this iPhone thing another go? Or is this going to be yet another drip feed of kind of useful and some gimmicky features? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. As usual, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel, and I'll see you guys in no time at all as we dive into this stuff. Take care.